Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with you. In the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Today's music, composed this morning by Rick Kleffel, is called Themosphere. Taking the theme to the atmosphere. There it is. Today's guest composes music to his patients' dreams, capturing feelings and moods and deepening the psychotherapeutic process. Dr. Michael Mollura is a PhD licensed clinical psychologist and an award-winning music composer. The healing power of music today on the Dream Journal. I'm your host, Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. We are also a weekly podcast. Please subscribe to the Dream Journal. Go ahead and rate and leave a review. But really, most importantly, tell your friends, because this is a mission of mine to get people interested in their dreams and talking about their dreams. So you could tell them you're listening to this podcast, and it would be a way to start a conversation. So you can also find archives at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of those other platforms. Or you can also go to ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. Little voice in my head there. Lovely. Okay, so the dream I'm mulling over is one where there is a bog in a forest, like there's a pump that's a man-made pump that's just spewing water out into the forest where it doesn't belong, and it's making a muddy mess. You know, bogs are wonderful things when they're natural and they have a lot of interest for wildlife, but this is an unnatural bog, and what is that? So I've been mulling this over kind of in the relationship context, and one thing that comes for me is I've been mulling over the difference between, like in a relationship or with a friend, any kind of relationship, if there's some little thing that comes up, I can let it go. And if it comes up again, maybe I need to talk about it. And so how do I find the difference between talking about something that's important versus just flooding the relationship with all kinds of little complaints? Like that's just creating a bog. And so in the dream, there's a man there who's disabling the pump that's creating the bog. And so I think that's good. I think it's good. This is like a bog that didn't need to be there. And maybe this is me like learning to titrate my sharing. I'd like to say hello to our guest, Michael Mollura. Hello.
Hello.
So Dr. Michael Mollura is a licensed clinical psychologist with a PhD from Pacifica Graduate Institute and a master's degree in performance studies from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. He composes music to the dream reports of his psychotherapy clients as a way of accessing unconscious material to provide healing pathways on neurological and collective levels. I'm fascinated by this process, and we'll hear some clips later. This therapy draws a bridge between Dr. Mollura's work as a professional award-winning music composer and as a clinician, and is an innovative way to promote healing and well-being for his clients. You can find out about his work at drmichaelmollura.com, and Mollura is spelled M-O-L-L-U-R-A, drmichaelmollura.com. So, Michael, hi.
Yes. Hi, Catherine. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm wondering if you could start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with your interest in dreams. Like you're a clinician and you're also a composer. Which one came first?
Well, I guess the music came first. I've been very interested in, music and creativity since I was probably around 6 or 8 years old. Mm-hmm. Started composing music early in life. But I would also have to say that, my relationship with dreams goes back that long as well. I had very vivid dreams as a child, and it continued through most of my life, which I would write down and keep a dream journal. and I was always fascinated by them. And it seemed to be like another story paralleling my life, but I never quite understood the power of the dream images really until I started doing my own personal therapy and work with Jungian based or depth psychological approaches to the unconscious.
I love that idea that dreams are stories that parallel our life, because there is something about that. There's some way that the dreams are kind of like my life, but they're not the same, and they have maybe different information, a different perspective, and so then how about when did you start to combine the two, combining?
Yeah, that came much later, I guess, within the intention of it being a psychoanalytic tool. Though I would say early again in my life, I was composing music to dream images. I would compose music throughout my life, and people would say, "What was your inspiration for that?" And I would sometimes even say, I had a dream the other night, and it felt like this. And so it started with that. Then it kind of got accented and manifested through my love for art, particularly surrealistic art. And then it gradually built my interest in theater. And when I say theater, I don't mean Broadway or Ibsen or Chekhov type theater. I mean experimental theater that I was exposed to living in New York City, particularly by like in the downtown areas and warehouses. And it was theater that attempted to explore the unconscious through images. And I would sit there and just hear music all the time.
Like in your head, you mean?
Yeah, in my head. And then I would want to go home and kind of try to put it into some sort of language that would make sense to me. I was also extremely inspired by composers like John Cage, who basically came up with the idea that dreams are music, and music can be noise. And so even sometimes I'll compose music that isn't even melodic, but representative of images that are being created and generated from the brain and from the unconscious. So,
well, that's one thing that really struck me about the clips that you sent me to listen to of some of these dreams that you have set to music. They kind of given them a soundtrack, and you really captured the mood of the dream, like maybe in a way that the dreamer himself doesn't even recognize. And we'll get to some of those clips in a moment. But I want to say this. So then you got into psychotherapy, and then what if you wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of doing dream work in psychotherapy? Why not just sit down and talk about your day? Right?
Yeah. I think I was very inspired by, first of all, Jung, and then James Hillman, von Franz, and people of that history. The concept here was the active imagination and how to sort of have access to parts of our mind or brain that we don't usually have access to. And when I started doing analytical work on dreams, not only personally but with others, I was really interested in what Hillman called the aesthetic response, and calling for something that goes beyond words. The limitation of language and semantics appealed to me as a concept, being that I was coming from music and was now interested in learning how to be an empathic, compassionate listener. And I found that just words, you can do that. I mean, I do that. I want to make that clear to your audience too, that I do with many of my clients. I just do the natural interpretive work without the music. The music comes in when we're looking to go really much deeper, to bring out more detail, to try to amplify, as it's sometimes referred to, the images in a dream, in order to get at a deeper experience of what this person is going through. I just found that being a musician or a composer, I wanted to use that tool, and I was getting that kind of reinforcement from my professors at Pacifica Graduate Institute. To use music, to use my tools as a composer, to have an empathic aesthetic response to the material that was showing up in the psychoanalytic diet. So I found that words weren't enough. And when I started to explore the idea of what dreams sounded like, and that was what my dissertation was on, I felt like I had opened up a big Pandora's box as to information that really hadn't been truly researched before. And the concept of how a dream sounds opened up a whole new door for trying to understand the function of dreams and how dreams can be used to promote healing and deeper understanding and knowing of what your patients or your clients are trying to convey.
Right. Well, certainly I often have like a lot of sound in my dreams, and sometimes when I wake up, I don't even remember images, but there's just some kind of like big crashing noises or something like that. There may just be some kind of sound that I can't really, I don't know how to record it. I wouldn't know really how to reproduce it, but it's interesting that you've like kind of, you've been doing that. And it seems like that you're picking your clients' big dreams, the ones that are important, maybe the ones that you've already worked on with them, and you're trying to bring them to yet another level. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll work with someone for months before we actually do any dream music.
Okay.
And then sometimes there's a reoccurring dream that feels just extremely potent and has heavy meaning and abundance to it. And we want to kind of try to go deeper into it. So it's the concept of, my background too, as a composer, was to score movies, and I still do that actually, and I realized how much music plays a part in watching a movie or telling a story, and I was really fascinated and hooked into this focus on recognizing that most people come into therapy. I actually believe that everyone has trauma in their life, and the idea here is how to restore authenticity and connection through these stories that people go to sleep and have and experience. And music kind of allows that authenticity and connection to take place in a sort of organic, empathic response that is really fascinating and creative. It also opens up the portal into helping the clients access their own creative world. As you probably know, a lot of people who come into therapy, for example, are coming in with depression or anxiety, and concerns about their lives, and even what could be considered, existential crisis type issues. And when you go into the brilliance, literally, I find brilliance in people's dreams, and people who don't see themselves as brilliant. It's amazing to see how they respond to going deeper into the experience or the phenomenology of their own dreams. And they're like, oh my God, did I actually dream that? After talking to you and working on it and putting music to it, they really feel the miracle of creation.
Right.
And on a deeper level, most people just sort of neglect their dreams, or they don't think of them, they don't honor them or respect them in the way that probably people like yourself and others and your listeners who are enthusiastic about dreams do. Mm-hmm. And so this is really honoring, respecting that transpersonal event of a dream by putting music to it.
Okay. Well, I think maybe it's time to play a clip and to actually listen a little bit to what you and your client have created. So we have a section here of something called Crystal Scary Path Dream, and I wondered, do you want to say anything to set this up, or do you want to just listen to it and then talk about it afterwards?
Sure, I could set it up a little bit. I mean, this is an actual dream that was, told to me during an early session, and you're going to hear the voice describe the dream and so forth. Mm-hmm. And this particular person was coming in with issues around intimacy. Mm-hmm. And having a tough time understanding why she couldn't have breakthroughs in her life that had to do with, getting married and settling down and all that sort of thing. And she kept having this as a reoccurring dream. I don't know how much you're going to play of it. It's a little long, obviously, so I don't think you're going to play the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But the gist of it is that she's walking through a forest and then the trees come alive, and she gets a little terrified that she's going to be devoured by the trees, and she's trying to get to the other side of the forest. So in talking about this with her from time to time, it felt like this was a big dream because it just kept showing up in various ways in our work. And then we decided, well, what if we did put some music to this and see how that might bring out more detail and of what she was describing.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay. Crystal Scary Path Dream.
When the dream begins, I'm walking somewhere alone, and I'm about to enter this pathway that is extremely wide. To each side of this path, there are these extremely tall, ancient trees. And the trees are huge, massive and brown. I feel and think and assess for a while, and then I make the choice to walk through the path, even though it seems very dark and scary. So as I walk slowly down this path, I feel all the trees are moving. Slow at first, and then they speed up, but it feels very dark and very heavy and very scary. As I walk further down this path, slowly, the trees start to come to life. I start to see that the trees have hands and indistinguishable faces. The branches, they start to act as arms, and they start waving and moving, and I hear the wind. this time I'm wondering if they're going to harm me. And all I keep thinking or praying or focusing on is that if you respect me, I will respect you.
Okay, so there's that moment. If you respect me, maybe... if I respect you, maybe you will respect me. I mean, that's beautiful. I was just really struck by it. It's like really is like a movie soundtrack.
Yes. Yeah, it's really all about allowing each image to breathe. And when I say image, I don't know if you know what I mean, but it's like the path, walking through the path is an image.
Right.
The branches of the trees coming alive, that's an image. Her making a choice to walk further into the forest is an image. And in this kind of work, what you do is you sort of emphasize the images. And I go through that system of doing, what Freud called, free association, and Jung used it as well. And with each image, they'll come up with their own associations to it, and then it kind of starts to tell a story of some kind. And each image, I find, has its own vibration and its own music. And this is what I do when I score movies as well. I'm going to ask the director, what's the mood of the dream? What's the mood of the story? What is the affect? What is the person experiencing? So when I'm working with a client and we start asking those kind of questions, like, what are you feeling when you first start moving into the forest? We're kind of really meeting them in a place that they wouldn't normally go. Because I'm trying to get detail. And then I get it. And the music starts to unfold. Now, I think one of the pieces that's really interesting here is that in order to recreate the sound of the music of the trees moving, I used the cello, which is made of wood.
Right.
And I had a cellist kind of go up and down the frets in the frame of it in order to create this eerie sound of almost like wood coming to life.
So you're working with other musicians too. It's not just electronically generated.
Right, exactly. I do use other musicians if there's an opportunity for it. They don't really hear the dream so much because I keep that pretty much between me and my client. But, it's almost like when I go to musicians who's scoring a movie, they don't need to necessarily see the movie. I just tell them what I'm looking for.
Right.
And then, I might call a cellist and say, hey, listen, I want wood to come to life, or I want the branches to come to life. What's a way we could do this? And when we came up with that sound, it really just seemed just absolutely perfect.
Oh, yeah, it makes my skin crawl. It's like, whoa!
Yeah, and it's great that it isn't, computer generated, and that it really is a cello. And then each instrument, you hear piano, and even the sounds that come in, the wind, that's another image, and you're animating the images in this person's dream. And the experience was just extraordinary as you see them come alive and the dream comes alive.
And what is the impact on the client? Like after working with this, because it's a collaboration with the client to create this piece of music, and what did you see, like this particular client or in general, like what do they get out of this?
Okay, so the idea is to go deeper, right? Yeah. To restore, say, things that are lost from trauma, like authenticity and connection that gets lost in the experience of trauma. Now, dreams are often projections of one's trauma. This person was stuck on an issue of intimacy, but without really being aware of what was causing her to have fear every time she got involved in a relationship, or intense fear, anxiety. Yeah. And this dream started off as just, okay, it's a fear-based dream about walking through a forest in fear the organic world she's walking in coming alive. But when we start putting music to it, what I do is I have them close their eyes, listen to the music, and just start free associating what they're seeing and what they're feeling when they listen to the music. And what we started getting was a story that activated a neural pathway to a memory this person had when she was a kid.
Yeah.
And there was a time when apparently she was about 8 years old, and she was asked to stay with her father after a divorce, and she wanted to be with her mother, but the father was the one she had to stay with, and she wasn't feeling comfortable with the situation, and the father decided to have friends over and told her to just go to her room and stay there by herself until and to not come out while he had friends and was having a bit of a party downstairs. And she had a time when she was thirsty and needed a glass of water, so she went downstairs to get a glass of water. And as she was walking through the living room, there were all these grown-ups around kind of doing things that she probably shouldn't have been exposed to. And she felt very scared and insecure, and she just wants to get to the kitchen in order to get her water and then go back to her room. And when her father found her, he got upset, and yelled at her and told her to go back to her room. We realized that the experience of walking through the living room was kind of like walking through the forest.
Ah, right. Uh-huh.
And it was like the tall trees are like the grown-ups that were in the living room. And those are the images that were coming out of the music as she was listening to it. She did not make these connections when we first started talking about the dream. And she realized that she was reliving this moment in her life that was absolutely terrifying because she was involuntarily told to stay with her father, which became a bit of a trauma for her. And when I asked her if she's really processed some of the material that led back to her parents' divorce, she would say, yeah, I did some work on it. I thought I was over it. Apparently it wasn't. And the dream brought out her real story, which is that she's terrified of intimacy and fears putting subsequent possible children in a divorce situation like she was.
Right.
And it really opened up the room for interpretation of what happened to her at a moment in her life when she lost authenticity, authentic expression, because she wasn't going to tell her father how she felt. And she felt disconnected from the masculine and felt forced and voluntarily, compelled to have to do certain things when in a situation that was just intolerable. So there was an opportunity here for really a wonderful kind of healing, to have insight into your own history this way. And the music, again, according to her and our conversations, allowed her an openness, a freedom, and a creative, it's like she felt like she had become an artist. In this experience of putting the music to the dream. And it was collaborative, and it was empathic, and it was a really interesting transpersonal exchange to try to get at something that was invariably clinical.
Right, right.
In order to find healing. So it really, it was a breakthrough. It ended up being a real breakthrough moment for this person's work.
Ah, wonderful. Thank you so much. This is Dr. Michael Mollura. You're listening to The Dream Journal, and we're going to take a short break, and we'll come right back. And I am really captivated by this process here. Now, as I'm imagining my own dreams, I'm picturing a soundtrack to my own dreams. Mm-hmm. So this is wonderful. welcome back to the Dream Journal. My name is Catherine Bell. Our guest today is Dr. Michael Mollura. His webpage is drmichaelmollura.com. You can spell Mollura, Mollura, drmichaelmollura.com. And we're talking about using music to deepen the psychotherapeutic process, because that's really what we're talking about, Michael, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's important to understand that music is often used as a CBT tool. To help.
I didn't know that, really.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. It's used to restore a more authentic response rather than a conditioned response to stimulus, and for relaxation. But I'm using it in order to deepen the experience of the unconscious.
Right,
So,
not just to avoid, in fact, the opposite of avoiding an emotions, just to, right, to go deeper into them.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm not so interested in conditioned responses to what's going on. I'm more interested in the authentic response.
Right. Well, my collaborator here, Rick Kleffel, who creates this music in the background, just handed me a note that his take here is that music transmits information for which words are inadequate, and I think that really says it very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a very common semantic problem. That a lot of writers like Roland Barthes has written about, and Benjamin and so forth, and it's just this problem of language being limited in our ability to express ourselves or even be received, and music just allows a bigger amplified response.
Yeah, do you have any sense about what that is? Like, is it that dreams kind of hit the unconscious, and music too? Is there a way that music maybe hits us at a below the conscious level?
Yeah, well, that's actually what John Cage, the composer from the 50s and 60s, was getting at, that music tends to lead us deeper into the psychological. He literally used that word. And the intention of music is to affirm life experiences, not to bring so much order out of the chaos, so to speak, but to allow us to wake up to the very life that we are living through musical sounds. And I think that's what we're doing when we're dreaming as well. There's this involuntary psychic process that's allowing the human experience to be creative and symbolic and sometimes terrifying. And we want to be able to understand what it's trying to communicate. And music, I think, just like dreams, just speaks to that deep internal world that keeps eluding us most of the time in our conscious minds.
Right. And that's I'm just like I'm just have this image kind of the conscious mind skittering along across the surface, where there's this more activity at the unconscious level, and music and dreams both tap into those deeper levels and can bring it into consciousness.
Yeah, it's also a way of, for me personally, music also is a good answer to the problem of recall.
Oh, say more about that. What do you mean?
Well, a lot of people come in and say, I don't remember the details of a dream, or they don't remember a lot of things that go on in a dream. And then they, they'll write it off as just being sort of an abstraction. This particular dream we just listened to or talked about moments ago, when we started listening to the music, she started seeing more details. And one of the key details that opened up the interpretation of that dream, for example, and this is the problem of recall. She didn't recall this at first. But then with the music, she realized she was wearing red shoes.
Oh, whoa. So it's like Dorothy of Oz, Wizard of Oz.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
And that opened up a whole great deal of information, because the red shoes, what do you associate to the red shoes? You hit it on right there on the nail there with Dorothy. But she remembered seeing Wizard of Oz around that time in her life. And she was wearing red shoes at that time in her life when she was like 8 years old and where that event took place. So we were able to kind of lock down even the time period in which she was reliving in this dream symbolically through an extra detail that she had left out. And it came up through the analysis.
Wow. Okay. Something super specific, and as you said, that brought it back into one particular memory. Now, not all trauma dates from one particular time in our life. Sometimes things can be recurrent, right. and all that. But there's I love that really made it so specific.
Yeah. And even like she said, at first she said that the dream felt more black and white. But when the music developed, she said she was starting to see more colors.
Well, it's a very impressionable age. And I remember that movie, too. I don't know what age exactly, but, it's a remarkable movie.
Yes, it is. I actually recently just saw it again.
Okay. It's very dreamlike itself. It really is kind of like she's having a dream during the entire... And the dreams are in color, whereas her everyday life in Kansas is black and white.
Exactly. So there's a lot of transference with Dorothy here.
So tell me more about transference. Is that like picking up on the movie? Is that, or what do you mean by transference here?
Okay, so in psychotherapy, there's something called transference, which is like what's going on between the patient and the therapist. You can have a positive transference or a negative transference. Right. Some people hate their therapist, or they're having a negative response to their therapist. The same thing with a dream. You can have a negative interpretation of a dream or a positive. So the transference speaks into how one is reacting or responding to an image. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when we talk about the transference, we're talking about how the person is responding to the therapist in a way. Do they feel comfortable? Do they feel unsafe? Do they feel threatened? Or do they feel comfortable and open and vulnerable?
Right. I just had this flash, and I don't know if that's what you meant, but I had this funny thought about transference to the dream. Like, do we trust our own dreams? Because in some ways, that's the therapist in a way.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, very much so. And that's, good point. Because that's what you're trying to get into. What is the transference, not only with the therapist, but really what is the experience? What is the dream? There's a great book out there called Tending to Dreams, or Dream Tending by Eisenstadt.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of the original creators of Pacifica Graduate Institute. And his work calls for the therapist to ask the dreamer, what is the dream asking of you? And when you start looking at it from the perspective of what may a dream be asking of the dreamer, it gets really interesting, because you're pretty much asking the dreamer, what can that person do to try to resolve some of the issues that are coming up in the dream?
I wonder if you could give us an example, possibly with a dream from the clip we played, or some other, like, what do you mean?
Sure.
What is the dream asking of the dreamer?
Yeah, well, the dream, in this case, the dream is asking of this particular client to kind of re-experience a little bit of her childhood and to understand that relationships don't have to be so frightening or terrifying. And it's asking her to make a more authentic connection to what it is to be in a relationship, and that she doesn't necessarily have to be terrified. And that's in the face of intimate relationships. And that person thereafter actually did have some breakthroughs in the world of intimacy.
Okay. Right. So what they're asking is awareness that this issue is still there, and not just awareness of it, but feeling into it, so that she can move beyond it.
Yeah, and there's a wound, right? Yeah. There's a wound there that's beckoning to be healed.
Yeah.
If it can. Now, again, it's this approach using an aesthetic response approach that allows her, in this case, to experience what she's experiencing with with her creative, active imagination.
Well, certainly the music can really deepen that experience of the dream. I was fully immersed in the dream just listening to that piece, and I can imagine if it was my own dream that it would be all the more profound because it would be touching on all the neural pathways that led to the creation of that dream.
Absolutely. And that's what's really, really interesting. It's really important, too, to recognize that they kind of guide the process.
The client, the dreamer.
The dreamer guides the process. It's not, I'm not telling them what it should sound like. They're telling me what it should sound like.
Okay, right.
So, like, when you're entering the forest, are you scared or are you excited? Are you full of enthusiasm and concern? And she said scared. So we started off with some very cautious music.
Right, and it was indeed very cautious. So, Michael, we have a caller on the line. We have Steve from Minneapolis. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, is it Steve Ernenwein?
This is.
It is. Also a music composer and dreamer yourself. I'm so glad that you called. Welcome to the show.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've been loving this conversation. It's something that's so close to my chest, and I wish my kids weren't so hyperactive this morning. I would have been able to pay more attention.
No worries.
Well, yeah, I love. I'm just so thrilled to hear somebody else talking about this, and this is coming from a different angle than I even have been using dreams and music. So I've just been so fascinated hearing you talk about your therapeutic use of it.
Thank you, Steve.
It is unique. I haven't heard anything quite like this before.
Yeah, I believe I'm the only person who's doing this. Again, a lot of people have talked about it. Even Sufi musicians and composers have talked about dreams and music. But on this clinical level, when I did my dissertation, for example, there really wasn't a whole lot of evidence of anyone doing something this specific in terms of working with dream images with music in a clinical way.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people have put music to dreams,
Absolutely.
just like probably Steve, you have, and I have before.
Absolutely, yeah.
But this is a little different because we're literally trying to open up a door for healing and working in a clinical container to provide some deeper way of understanding what a dream is.
Absolutely. So, Steve,
Yeah, that's so fascinating.
go ahead,
Yeah.
Steve. What's coming up for you around this idea, Steve?
Well, what I think is most surprising to me is that, so I guess I write my own music based on dreams. They'll give me like lyrics or chord progressions or song concepts or song titles. There's like a whole different array of ways that the dreams kind of lob things at me, and they act as these really beautiful access points for me to tap into something that on the surface I'm not even expecting that I'm about to dive into. And it's such an intimate and beautiful process, and it shocks me every time. But the thing that I'm really surprised with is that my own podcast that I do, I create instrumental music for the interview, and a lot of times I'll add the music during the person's retelling of their dream, and I didn't even realize that in some unconscious way I'm doing kind of what you're doing, and I think it's given me a whole different way to like look at the work I've been doing on the podcast.
Sure.
That's so true. That's the Dreams That Shape Us podcast that Steve does so beautifully. And
nice. I'd love to hear that.
yeah, you should check it out, Michael. He does. Steve puts this it kind of does the soundtrack thing while the dreamer's telling the dream. And now, Michael, you add the variant of putting a big spaces while the dream is speaking, and so that you can kind of imagine the scene, and so it kind of gives it a little more depth to it. But yeah, I think Stephen, you've been kind of doing something similar.
I think I'm if I'm understanding correctly too, though, Steve, you're a composer, right? You're not a clinician or anything like that.
No.
Right. So that's that's the big difference.
Right.
It's the concept of he's very passionate and excited about the idea of music and dreams and surrealism, and as a lot of great composers have been. I'm literally employing this as a clinical tool, and making the very important, bold statement that dreams are not random and they do have deep meaning, and if they're received with creative response, like again, another way of doing it, there are colleagues I know who do this with dance. There's people I know who do this with artwork. Carl Jung's Red Book is a perfect example of how artwork and dreams can help someone avoid going psychotic in certain situations. Here we're just using the music as the aesthetic response to allow for the dream to breathe in a different way, just the way movies do.
And they do. The music, if you really tune into the music in a movie or a TV show, that you may not even be consciously aware of it, but if you tune into it, it really enhances the moment so much and really brings out a certain mood.
Right, and what's really important about that, though, is that if it's done, I think, I'm a little critical sometimes of how composers interact with images in cinema, but generally, you're not supposed to, get too obvious.
Right, right.
Allow the story to tell itself and allow the director to tell whatever story he or she is trying to tell. And it's about the other person. It's not about you. Like I do composing for myself, and that's one thing, where I'm just creating music for my own pleasure and expression. But when I'm working on a movie or a dream music piece, it's about the other person. It's their dream. It's their movie. It's not my movie. I may say, hey, I thought that scene was supposed to be funny.
That would be different.
But they're like, no. We want dark music there. Okay, they're right. They're right. There's no right or wrongs here. But what's interesting is you got to get the narcissistic element here out of the way. You got to get yourself and your own ego out of the way to do this kind of work.
Michael, I've got a quick question. Do you ever have you done this with your own dreams? Have you made a soundtrack?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's how this all started. I'd say. And then I met up with an incredible writer and professor named Dr. Robert Romanishin, who heard me composing music while I was at Pacifica, and he was like, "What are you doing there?" And I'm like, I'm composing a piece of music based on one of my dreams. And he goes, oh my God, have you ever thought about maybe doing that in a clinical way and putting it into your research work? And I was like, that's what I'm hoping to do. And he became my chair on my dissertation.
Wonderful. Hey, Steve, do you have any last minute things before we say goodbye?
I don't know. I feel like we'll have to connect outside of this and talk more.
Please do. Feel free to send me an email or something, and and to send me a link to your own podcast. I'd love to hear all about what you're doing and what you're putting out there.
Excellent. Thanks.
Yeah, that would be great.
Thanks so much for calling in, Steve.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. So, in fact, that was a nice segue to ask me to ask you, Michael, how can folks get in touch with you?
Well, you can send me an email at michael@drmichaelmollura.com. It's drmichaelmollura.com. Or you could go to my website. I'm also, there is social media out there for Dr. Michael Mollura. And I'm very open to receiving messages or requests and inquiries.
You mentioned events, and do you have some events upcoming, or you have like a email list where people can find out about upcoming events? Yeah,
I'm so bummed. At the moment, we don't have anything particularly planned. We just did a dream music concert where we do this live. What's when 40 plus people show up in a room, we pick or select 5 or 6 people to volunteer and share a dream into a microphone, and then I have world musicians standing around. We start to improvise music. And it's really a fun, interesting, thoughtful introspective event. We've had a lot of healing experiences in these events. Also, it's very entertaining. And we do these concerts periodically. I'm planning on doing one at the end of August or early September in Malibu at Lee McCloskey's famous house out there. I don't know if you guys are, if your listeners are in LA or Malibu or near Malibu. There's a place called Allender. Okay. It's a house that puts on all kinds of consciousness events. And we're looking to do something like that in August or September. We just haven't locked down the date yet.
Wonderful. Well, and people can get on your email list by going to drmichaelmollura.com.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
So I wonder if you have any brief parting encouragements for our listeners.
Absolutely. And it's the most obvious, which is to pay attention to your dreams, recognize that they are an important part of your consciousness, part of who you are. There's work that can lead to your transformation in so many different ways, and don't be afraid of them. Excellent. Write them down and be intimate with your unconscious.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. This was a wonderful conversation. I'm fascinated by this process, and I wish you well. Maybe we'll keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you, Catherine, for having me and for doing this podcast. It's very important for us dreamers to have a place to turn to and talk to.
Absolutely. So glad to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. All right.
Bye.
Be well. Bye.
So thanks for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, and it's live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific. You can listen in at ksqd.org. The podcast is released on the Monday after the show. Keeps us growing when you subscribe, rate, and review. I am Catherine Bell. You can find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. You can email me at catherine@ksqd.org, KATHERINE @ksqd.org. You can follow Experiential Dreamwork on Facebook and Instagram to find out about upcoming shows. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator. You can find that ambient music at pandemia.com. Thank Tony Russimano for the phones, Eva Milady for audio editing. The intro music is Water Over Stones, and the outro music is Everything, both by Mood Science. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.
There's a time in our life, all the husbands and wives, all the boys and the girls, and everyone in the world knows that so much is wrong, but much more is right. We see in the darkness by shining a light. And you are everything. Yes, you that says